Wanna take a walk around the world, wonder would it do me any good, till I get some honey in my pockets, and I guess I'll just have to walk around my neighborhood. I wanna be good so bad, wanna be so good, so bad, so bad. I wanna be good so bad. Bad desire's all I ever had. Wanna take a ride up in the sky, watch as airplanes just pass me by. And I wanna see a Lear jetliner take a dive, just to show all of these people what it means to be alive. I wanna be good so bad, I wanna be so good, so bad, so bad. I wanna be good so bad. Bad desire's all I ever had.
I feel so much better just seeing all your guys' faces. I'm not gonna lie, like probably about an hour ago I thought I was gonna throw up. I don't know why I'm so nervous. I was just telling Jessica right before we started the meeting how I've done just way more embarrassing things in my life. So like something like this should not even shake me, right? Like pretty sure I've like pulled my shirt off in public and whatever the crazy shit that I used to do. Well, anyways, Buju Anin, Gitcha Oni Janu Indigenous. As you all know, I meet with you often. I'm Anishinaabe. So I just said, hello, my name is Gitcha Oni Janu, which means great doe. Before I start my meeting tonight, I want to give a land acknowledgement because I am Anishinaabe. So Duluth is located on the traditional, ancestral, and contemporary lands of Indigenous people. I reside on land that was cared for and called home by the Ojibwe. Before them, the Dakota, the Northern Cheyenne people, and other Native peoples before them. It was ceded by the Ojibwe in 1854 in a treaty. This land holds great historical, spiritual, and personal significance for the original stewards, the Native nations, and peoples of this region, including myself. Both the state of Minnesota and the United States government carried out genocide, ethnic cleansing, and forced removal against Native people as a way to acquire land. They broke promises despite centuries of colonial theft and violence. This is still Indigenous land, and it will always be Indigenous land. Indigenous people are not relics of the past. We are still here. We continue to demonstrate our talents and gifts amidst a backdrop of ongoing colonialism and oppression. And we are definitely worth celebrating. So in that, I like bringing up the land recognition just for the simple fact that my trauma started long before I was even born. My great-great-great-grandmother, her name was Niguanakwe, which means the woman who will lead into the future, which I think is extremely powerful, and proud to call her my great-great-great-grandmother. She was from Seine River First Nation in Canada. My great-great-grandmother was Rosalie Morceau from Couchiching First Nation. My grandmother, Josephine Breer, was from Couchiching First Nation. My grandmother, Bernice Breer, was from Couchiching First Nation. And my mother, Kathy Soderstrom, is from Couchiching First Nation in Ontario, Canada. I'm speaking about these women because they are my elders and they are my ancestors who fought so that I could be standing in front of you guys today. And I don't take that lightly. It's something that I come from a matriarch in our community. We are women-led, and these women are the fuel to my sobriety and to live my life in a good way. So the trauma that started before I was born. My great-grandmother was taken from her home and placed onto a reservation. My grandmother was placed into Catholic boarding schools, taken away from her family. My grandmother also lost her Indian status in Canada for marrying a white man. My grandmother died in a devastating car accident in 1977. It was a drinking and driving accident. And at that time, there, you know, it was in the middle of nowhere and there was nobody there to save her. They didn't have cell phones. And to me, this has had such a huge impact on my life. She left behind my mom, who was 9 years old, and my mom's 4 younger siblings to a widowed man who struggled with alcoholism himself. So my mom and her siblings suffered more trauma than I feel any child should ever have to endure. And that I'm not disregarding any of the trauma prior to any of my other elders or ancestors, but I just know personally my mom's trauma, and I recognize that. But even still, prior to me being born, this is maybe a little TMI, but it's important to me. My mom lost her virginity when she was 17 years old, and she was impregnated by a man. That first time of ever having sexual intercourse, she was impregnated by a man who refused to claim me as his child. However, my mom decided to go full term with me, and she delivered me at 18. She raised me just like she raised her siblings. She graduated high school, and I think she did a damn good job considering the circumstances. She also had her brothers and sisters to help her. They are my heroes. They were always there for me, and they still are. But I'm going to fast forward to the first time that I ever used any substance. So I grew up with a pretty rowdy family. Like, family reunions usually entailed a lot of alcohol and a lot of weed. There was a lot of weed smoking in my family, and I hated it growing up. I was always super uncomfortable being around drunk people. I hated when my mom smoked weed. But I remember being 13 years old and all of a sudden thinking that I would be considered extremely cool if I got high. So I found my mom. I was alone after school. I found my mom's pack of Marlboro cigarettes that had all of her rolled joints in it. And I went into my bedroom and I sat down at the back window and I was like, fuck yeah, I'm going to tell everybody I got high tomorrow. Like, this is badass. And like, as I light the joint, I'm sitting there and I'm like smoking it, kind of like I would a cigarette. And then all of a sudden, the narrating comes in, like, I wonder how much of this I'm supposed to smoke. Like, that must be enough. Like, now that I'm older, I know I was high as fuck. It was not a good experience for me. I hated it. I remember getting up and looking in the mirror and just being like, what the fuck? Is this going to last forever? Just like absolutely dying. I don't think I lasted more than 30 minutes. I passed out. So that was my first time using. That was also my gateway. It was the same year that I started drinking recreationally with friends on weekends. That same year, I was sexually assaulted. I was 13 years old. I think it was about a year later, actually. And with the rowdy family that I had, there was a lot of alcohol and drug abuse, and it was always around. I was very familiar with a lot of drugs and alcohol and what it did to people. And by the age of 14 or 15, my cousin introduced me to crank, and I was doing that with her occasionally. By 16, there was meth, and we were doing that together. I, through high school, just recreationally used, like partied on the weekends, partied at prom. But, you know, it wasn't normal. Like, I don't think most people smoked meth before ever. So I don't know how I justified that at all. But let's see here. I went off to college, and I see your comment there, Chelsea. Crank was pink, and I don't exactly know what it was. Meth is not pink. So I know that there's some sort of difference, but I don't know exactly what. Well, it's pink or orange, but anyway, beside the point. I'm no expert here. I went off to college, and I was partying a lot. I loved partying. It was my favorite thing to do. I felt like a goddamn celebrity. I loved making people laugh, being the light of the party. And within my first year being at college, I was sexually assaulted again. And I continued to party and chalked it up to, just having a good old time. My roommates, we partied a lot. We partied on the weekends. We had keggers, like it was what we looked forward to. And during that time in college, like my first year, I ended up with a DUI and a DWI, and somehow weaseled my way out of both Rule 25s, totally passing the opportunity of treatment. And it was, I think I went to a year and a half of college, and I decided I was going to become a full-time partier because I enjoyed that way more. So I dropped out of college and I started to work, and the partying continued. I worked at a bar. I was a cocktail waitress. I had a lot of fun doing that. Of course, I would have like a few drinks before I went, and then I would just be ridiculously flirty and make a ton of money. And I thought it was fantastic. I felt good, like nothing was really shit aside from, getting in a little bit of legal trouble. My life wasn't really falling apart. However, I think I first started to realize after I was 19 years old and I got into my first probably serious relationship, and that individual drank daily, and I drank daily with him, and there was a lot of mental and emotional abuse that happened in that relationship, and towards the end a little physical abuse. And at that time I recognized absolutely that there was a problem. I didn't enjoy drinking every day, and for some reason I just continued to drink with him because it was just what we did. And I don't know that I don't think I knew any different at that point in time. So at the age of 20, I left my abuser, and it was a terrible breakup. I was heartbroken, crushed, and my drinking was pretty bad. So I decided to move back home. I moved about 30 minutes north of my hometown to live with my aunt, and I decided I was going to work and pay off some of the student debt that I had, and just kind of get over the heartache and get my life back together. However, methamphetamines was huge in this little tiny community. I reconnected with some old friends, and before I knew it, I was started out like just kind of getting high on the weekends, like drinking and getting high. And then I met this kingpin, and I was smitten by him, and I started dating him, and that turned into using every day. And there is about a year and a half of my life that I don't remember. I don't know if it was just that traumatic or if I was that fucked up. But there's so many things that I do not recall. And it's so embarrassing, when people will come up to me and say like, oh, I remember that, or do you remember this, or do you remember that? And I'm just like, I don't even remember you. Like, what the fuck? It's mind blowing. So I dated him for about a year and a half. And at the age of 21, I found myself, I'm 5'11", by the way. I found myself at 110 pounds, smoking about a teener a day of meth, charges with a first-degree possession of a controlled substance, and sitting in county jail. The good news is the ounce that I had on me was cut. And so after they tested it, it got dropped to a 5th degree. I was very grateful for that because I was told it was cut. But knowing my boyfriend very well, after being arrested, I didn't know if I believed that. I was like, what if he just told me it was cut so I didn't touch it? Like, I was freaking the fuck out. Anyways, charges were dropped to a 5th degree. And I'm a white passing Native American, and I honestly, wholeheartedly believe that the judge thought that I was some poor little white girl who just found herself in a bad position. And I just basically got a slap on the wrist. She gave me a stay of adjudication. So I had to be on probation for 5 years. And as long as I didn't piss dirty or find myself with a similar charge within 5 years, the felony would be lifted. And By the time I got out of jail, I was a shell of myself. I was at a complete loss. I once again made my way through Rule 25 without having to go to treatment. I don't know why on earth I thought it was a good idea to lie my way through that thing, but I just didn't want to deal with the consequences. And I was homeless for a little while. After getting out of jail, I didn't know what I was going to do. I was kind of couch surfing. I was not welcomed anywhere. Nobody wanted me near them. I had burnt all bridges. And so, yeah, I ended up moving, reconnecting with some old friends who I felt took me back, I guess. You know, I hadn't burnt the bridge with them so badly. They were high school friends and old college roommates, and I moved back in with them. And I was horrified. I was done with everything. I was like, I can't have a felony. Like, that was my biggest concern. I wasn't going to smoke weed. I was done with meth, like done. I didn't even want to touch it. I didn't want to look at it, nothing. And I was horrified to drink. Like, I would party with them occasionally, but I just remember being so fucking horrified. Like, the cops would get called, or, you know, and like they would find me drunk and I would wind up back in jail. So I don't believe I ended up staying on probation for 5 years. Shortly after moving in with my roommates, I met the father of my children, and shortly after conceived my daughter. And so at 23, I was pregnant with my daughter. I was changing my life. I was doing everything I could to make myself better. I found a job. I was working. I had to finish my sentence, pregnant with my daughter. So I sat 14 days in jail with her in my belly, which still to this day breaks my heart. But, you know, it is what it is. Those were my consequences. And I guess between the time of my daughter being born and 5 years later, my son being born, I kept my drinking at bay. I knew I had a problem, but I wasn't going to let anybody know about it. And I didn't want to lose that. I was stubborn. I am stubborn. I'm stubborn as hell. And so I guess after my son I think he was about a year old, and I had a few questionable nights, you know, a few times where I took the drinking too far and scared myself. And that was my coping. I was unhappy. I was unhappy in my marriage, and I didn't really know what to do. I don't know that I was built to be a mother. I didn't know what I was doing. I guess I just felt like I didn't have an identity. I just kind of was going with the flow. And it wasn't actually until the pandemic hit that things got really serious. You know, I think a lot of us were challenged to change our lives and to look at what life really meant for us. You know, like we were trapped inside and figuring out what the fuck to do. And my life was crumbling, spiraling out of control. By November 2020, I had about a $700 a month Adderall habit, not $600 to $900 cocaine habit, and a couple $100 alcohol habit. I was a shell of myself. Like, I was at a complete low. I had reached a new low. You know, it was my low, a spiritual low. I didn't have my identity, and I was lost. And honestly, I felt like I knew the end was coming. And the summer of 2020, I felt like I was giving my addiction the last hurrah. I mean, that's the way that I look at it now. Like, I was like, whoa, I'm almost done. Like, I got to live it up. I'm so grateful that I made it through that summer without any like legal issues. I didn't hurt anybody physically. You know, I wasn't in a wreck or anything. I know that I crushed a lot of people in my life. because I was very distant and running from everything. By November, I knew what was out there for me. I had plenty of friends in the program. I knew that was available, but that meant that I had to surrender. And if I surrendered, that meant that a lot of things were going to change for me. And I thought about it for weeks. I would be giving up my best friend, the only thing that was always there for me, the only thing that I knew how to. It was always there when I needed to cope with anything, happy, angry, sad, frustrated. And so, yeah, I was absolutely miserable. I had destroyed my marriage. I was separated from my husband. And a really good friend of mine called me and she said, I'm going to come up this weekend, Kristine. Like, you are really going through it and I want to be here for you. And so she came up, we got a hotel room. We partied our asses off and I bawled my eyes out to her. I told her how unhappy I was and that I didn't know what to do. And I didn't know what was going to happen next. And I don't think anybody did. I spent a lot of my using and drinking behind closed doors and late at night. I don't think a lot of people in my life knew how much I suffered. I was definitely good at faking it until you make it. So anyways, my friend left me that weekend, and I will add that she had a DWI. So she had one of those like breathalyzer things in her car. So before we could leave, we had to blow zeros. And she had like a little breathalyzer machine, and we were at the hotel until like 12 or 1. We had to get a late checkout because we were still fucking blowing at like noon. We finally blew zeros, and I'm saying my goodbyes to her. And I was just very, very confused about what to do next. And we went to the strip club the night before, and I managed to lose everything on my person, including my ID. And I'm giving her a hug goodbye, and I saw that she had a box of white wine in the back of her car. And I was like, hey, can I Venmo you $20? Because I don't have my ID, and then I can have that box of wine. And she was like, yeah, sure, no problem. And I get in the car and I start driving away. And I was, I had to leave to be home because the father of my children had to be somewhere. Like, he had an obligation. So I had to come home and be home with our kids. And I get in the car and I fucking popped that box of wine open so quick and poured a cup, and I'm drinking on the way home. And I'm going up this avenue that leads up to my house. And I was like, what the fuck, Kristine? Like, you literally need to be there for your kids right now. And you can't even wait to get home to drink. Like, what if you got pulled over right now and got a DWI? Like, what is going on with you? Like, and I just couldn't get it right. Like, I had absolutely no fucking control over anything anymore. And so I get home, and within an hour, the box of wine is gone. And I'm Snapchatting my friends, and I'm crying, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. And my friend that was from the cities was like, how in the fuck are you so drunk already? Like, I just left you 3 hours ago, Kristine. And she was dumbfounded. Like, she couldn't even believe like my ability to fuck myself up. And so, yeah, I was messaging all my best girlfriends, crying and just saying like, I need help. I don't know what to do. And they are all heavy drinkers, and I don't think that they had an answer for me at that time other than just to support me. But as I'm like scrolling through social media, I get on my Instagram and I notice that I have a message, and it's from a fellow Native American who I hold so much respect for, who has a great amount of sobriety under his belt. And he had messaged me and was like commenting on something I had posted and just how genuinely awesome that he thought I was. And that message broke me. And it was the reason I surrendered, because I knew that he saw something in me that I couldn't recognize anymore. And I also knew was going to disappear if I continued going down the road that I was going. And so I called him. I was like, yo, Niji. Niji means friend in Ojibwe. I was like, yo, Niji, I need help. He's like, what is going on, Kristine? And I'm bawling. And I was like, I have been drinking heavily, like so heavily. And he knows that I had a meth habit. And I'm like, I basically relapsed. I'm on Adderall. I'm taking Adderall daily to survive and cocaine on top of that. And he was like, Kristine, you have to go to detox. There's absolutely no way that you can get sober on your own, without risks. He's like, I highly recommend that you go down to the detox and you tell them what's going on and you tell them that you need help. And so I called the father of my children and I was like, I need you to come home. He was like, what's going on? I was like, I need you to take me to treatment. And he was like, okay. And I don't to this day even know what he was doing. That's how drunk I was. But he came home. He got home right away. And that moment to this day is one of the most, it's a powerful moment in my recovery, but I look back and it is like a movie scene in my head. I'm packing my bags and my 11-year-old daughter is bawling her eyes out and begging me not to go. And I think that she's crying because she doesn't think that I'm going to come home. She doesn't think that I'm going to come back. I just had to look her dead in the face and say, I'm doing this for you. I have to go get help. And like thinking of the thought, like that look on her face and her fear, that keeps me sober too. Because that is something I don't like reliving and I don't talk about often. But it's powerful, and I'm glad to talk about it because it's those moments that you need to recall so that you don't grab that drink again, right? So I didn't think I was going to cry tonight. Goddamn makeup. So anyways, I go down to the local detox center and I ring the doorbell and I was like, hi, my name is Kristine. I need detox. And they're like, oh, sorry, Kristine, it's COVID-19 and we have like extremely high restrictions and low beds. We're full. And I was like, oh, fuck, it's COVID. And so I call my friend back again, who I had originally called. And I was like, yo, I said, they don't have any beds in detox. I don't know what to do. And he's like, you need to go to the emergency room and tell them how much you've been drinking and that you can't detox at home safe. So that's what I do. I go to the emergency room and I'm sitting there and this amazing Russian woman walks in and she's like a social worker or something. She was just an amazing woman. And within 10 minutes, she had found a bed for me in a detox center about 45 minutes away. And so off we went and I went to detox. And I checked myself in at about 11 p.m. or midnight or something. And upon arrival, I blew a 0.24. So that's how drunk I was. I had already been done drinking for several hours. Like when I blew that, I was like, wow, I scare the shit out of myself right now. So I get to detox. I detox. I was extremely sick for 3 days. I don't really even recall the first day, but I remember every night waking up so soaking wet with sweat. And the nurse would come in to check my vitals and be like, Kristine, we have to change your scrubs. And I was so uncomfortable. I was like, I don't want to change. Like, I just want to sleep. And she's like, you're going to get sick. Like, we need to change. So I would change my scrubs like once or twice a night. And they took very good care of me there. Yeah. So as I'm sitting in detox and kind of sobering up, I'm really starting to like be really grateful that I didn't think about anything and that I went in drunk, because I don't think I would have, if I would have had time to think about all of the things that I would have to think about in the next 55 days, I don't think I would have gone. You know, like reality was starting to set in. It was the third day and I was recognizing, oh yeah, it's COVID-19. Like the odds of me getting a bed in treatment are slim to none. And I was being kind of a little bitch about it. I was like, I want the best treatment that I could possibly have, and it has to be cultural based. And it ended up, you know, it didn't have to be the best treatment, but I was very adamant on getting cultural based treatment. And to my knowledge, there was only 2 treatment facilities that were culture based in Minnesota that I knew of. One of which I was not going to go to because it was local and I had worked there before. So that left me with 1 treatment facility, and they had really high restrictions. Like they were housing about half the people in their treatment, and admin only worked like 2 days a week in the office. So I basically, on like the 3rd and 4th day, I was on the phone with the county. And because I was, you know, in detox and not working, I immediately qualified for medical assistance, thankfully. And so I had to work with the county on like expediting that process. And then we just kind of had to do this waiting game with the treatment facility, whether or not there was going to be a bed and whether or not I was accepted. And I would sit there and cry and make as many phone calls as I could every single day, like calling the county, calling the treatment facility, calling the father of my children. And they were the only people I wanted to talk to. Like I didn't want to talk to a single soul. I was just like, I can't face anything right now. I just need to go. Like I was on a solid mission. And the days kept going by. I was like on my 5th or 6th day, and I met with the administrator. And well, I'd already had my Rule 25, and I passed it with flying colors. They decided I did need treatment. Finally, I didn't lie. I met with like the administrator, and she was like, Kristine, like we love you so much, and we're so happy you're here, but you know, like you're such a delight compared to some of the people we have in here. But you know, you can go home while you wait for a bed. And I was like, no, I can't. I don't think you understand. If I go home right now, like, I'm not going to stay sober. And she was like, okay, bet we'll keep you here. So I think I did like 10 3,000 piece puzzles while I was there. And I think I also ate about 5,000 calories a day. They had an open kitchen, and it was absolutely amazing. Like the cupboards were full. I ate like 10 times a day. I was so bored that I made this like little journal that had every day. And I'm an accountant and I love spreadsheets. So I kind of made like my own little journal of spreadsheets. So like I had somebody look up how many steps were in a mile. And I think, don't quote me here, but I think it's 1,000. So it was 75 steps down to the end of the hall and back. And I fucking walked like 5 miles a day. I mean, I had little check marks for every glass of water I drank. I had all the phone numbers that I needed in there, and breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I wrote all of the meals, everything I ate. So I've got that nice little reminder of how boring detox was next to my bed and my nightstand. I do want to give a shout out to the employee who came in every single day singing, "Here comes Peter Cottontail, hopping down the bunny trail." Every day she came in singing that song. And like most people, that might have annoyed the shit out of, but I was like, I love you, and you make every morning amazing. And I will forever be grateful for the staff at that detox. I sat in detox for 10 days. On the 10th day, I was approved, and it was just kind of a last minute thing. They were like, if you can be here by 9 a.m., 8 or 9 a.m., like we have a bed for you. So I think it was about an hour and a half drive, and I found myself at Four Winds Lodge in Brainerd, Minnesota on December 9th, where I self-admitted myself praying for change. And the admit process at Four Winds, I will say my will and determination was so extremely strong at this point, because had I had a weak moment, I would not have even made it there. Like, the admit, I think, took 8 hours. I didn't go back. I didn't get upstairs into the treatment until 5 p.m. at night. I had to have like a COVID test. I had to fill out all this paperwork. Then they forgot about me at one point. Like, I wanted to get up and leave so bad. Like, every single ounce of my body was like, leave. This is stupid. Like, why are you fucking waiting? It's been 4 hours. Like, leave. But I just believe that my higher power and my ancestors had their hands on me, and they were just like, you're not going anywhere. And so I was self-admitted. I went into a 45-day program at Four Winds Lodge. I'm not going to lie. I think I've mentioned this in meetings before. I, just like my life, I thought that there was going to be a pill that they would hand me and I would be cured, or a vaccine. Or I thought just like simply going through the motions of treatment was going to cure me. And I was very wrong. But I noticed kind of in the first week or so that there was just going to be a lot of work to do. First and foremost, I needed to reconnect with my culture and rebuild my relationship with the Creator. And that's where the cultural-based treatment came in. I am so grateful. We started and ended every day with a talking circle. We smudged, prayed. We had, men that sang with a hand drum, and we shared with each other, and they are my brothers and sisters for life. Every other week we did Sweat Lodge, which is a healing ceremony, a healing/cleansing ceremony. If anybody is unfamiliar, it is like the most intense sauna of your entire life. At my time at Four Winds, I was also introduced to a spiritual leader who I really connected with, and he became my Wente, which is the individual who gives you your spirit name. And he named me after the fourth door of my first sweat, and that's where I got the name Gitcha Onijanu, which means great doe. And there's a kind of a whole story behind that naming process that's pretty powerful, but I'm gonna save that because it's that I don't want that recorded, basically. It's very precious to me. So anyways, reconnecting to my culture and the Creator was the beginning of my journey. I did start light therapy. I had, counseling. I got put on medication to help with my chemical imbalances. And I will say those 45 days were the easiest part of my recovery so far. It was a breeze. It was super simple. I was incubated and loved and held. And I will add that I had another very impactful moment, though. On the last day, my last day there, I woke up pretty early in treatment, and it was a beautiful sunny winter day. Like, the skies were blue, the sun was out, and the snow was just like glitter on the trees and on the ground. And I was sitting outside and drinking my coffee, and I was just like, God, just kind of admiring nature and just how fucking beautiful everything was in that moment. And in the back of my mind, there's a voice, and it says, "You are such a piece of shit. Like, you do not deserve this. You are a shit mother, and you should probably go back to being a piece of shit." And I was like, whoa, where the fuck did that come from? Like, that is when I realized how incredibly sick my addict brain is. And that was the first time that I had heard my addict brain loud and clear. And I was scared. I knew that I needed help with that, and I wasn't exactly sure what I was going to do. But a pivotal moment, just recognizing that voice for the first time and hearing how ugly it is. So anyways, I ended up going home, and that was probably the scariest thing. I was entering the place where I abused my body the most, and every corner I turned was a trigger. I also found out after coming home that I wasn't going to get into inpatient treatment for about 2 weeks. And I remember calling the outpatient facility here in Duluth and just like reaming them a new asshole. I was like, what do you mean 2 weeks? Like, this is the most fucking vulnerable I have ever been in my entire life. Like, I could relapse any minute. Like, what do you mean 2 weeks? Like, I couldn't believe that I had to wait 14 days to be back in a place where I was held accountable, not just by myself. But what I did do was listen to the advice of my counselor in the inpatient. And, her advice was, as soon as you get home, find a meeting. And once you've attended a meeting or two, find a sponsor, somebody that, you listen to and you can relate to, and, let it happen organically. And that person will keep you safe until you find yourself in outpatient. So I think it took me like a day or two before I actually, I knew that I had to go to a meeting because I didn't know what else to do, but I also was completely horrified. I had actually never in my life been to an AA meeting aside from the little circles, we had in inpatient treatment. And so I actually called a peer of mine that was still in treatment, and I was like, I think I'm going to go to a meeting. And he was like, that sounds like a great idea. And I was like, you should talk to me on the way there because I'm really scared. And he was like, okay. So we just shot the shit, and he was telling me all the funny shit that was happening and how my old spades partner had disowned me because I left and had a new partner, and it was cracking me up. And I get outside of the local club here, and I was like, I don't know if I can go in. And he's like, you better go in. I was like, okay, fine. So I hung up the phone and I sat outside for a couple minutes, and it was cold. It was like a cold ass night, dead of winter. And it took everything inside of me to walk up those stairs. I was just shaking. My heart was beating. When I get really nervous, my neck turns red. You can tell I'm nervous because I'm speaking. And I could just feel the heat in my face. And I walk into this meeting, and there's 5 or 6 older white men sitting in a half circle. And I'm like, oh God, of course. I walk into an all men's meeting or something like that. And I was like, hi, am I in the right place? And they all just kind of start laughing, and they're like, I don't know. Are you looking for an AA meeting? And I was like, yeah. They're like, take a seat. It's a basket case meeting tonight. I was like, so it's not just all men? They're like, well, tonight it looks like it's all men and one woman. And so almost immediately they had me laughing and feeling extremely comfortable. And I was just so happy to be sitting down in the circle and to have such kind of warm people around me. I could already tell that they were super chill, and they passed around the basket, and I shared for my first time in an AA meeting. And after I left that meeting, that was bliss for me. I don't think that I have felt that good in my entire life. And I knew that that was my new medicine. And that meeting to this day is my home meeting. And I'm so grateful for those old men who made me sit down and share with them. I absolutely adore them. So as I waited for outpatient, all I did was sleep, sit on my bed and look out the window, work, and go to AA. And that was my schedule for 2 weeks. And I finally ended up in outpatient. And I am so extremely grateful for that outpatient program. I still participate in it. And everything that they have taught me in that program has kept me sober to this day. They've introduced me to so many tools, so many resources. They've challenged my thinking. I have a counselor there who has completely transformed my inner monologue. it's impossible for me to speak negatively about myself thanks to her. I tell her that she changed my life, and she said, girl, I just gave you the tools and you did the work. So I'm going to take a little bit of credit and pat myself on the back because I did do the work. And I think we forget to acknowledge that. But here I am today, and I just want to share with everybody that the reason that I am sober today is because all I did was listen to what everybody told me to do. I surrendered, first of all, and then listened to what everybody told me to do. I went to detox. I went to inpatient therapy. I entered outpatient therapy. I started therapy, actual therapy with a therapist. I go to groups. I go to meetings. I found a sponsor. I started working the steps, and I practice everything that is gifted to me daily. I just want to add that my outpatient program, the reason I appreciate it so much is because it gives me kind of that extra layer of accountability, and they teach me things about addiction that I was not aware of. Now that I know some of the things, I feel like it is almost common sense, but as an addict / alcoholic, those things weren't so clear to me. And I'm just really grateful that I had a team that was willing to spell it out for me. The biggest thing for me is like relapse prevention. I didn't know a goddamn thing about relapse prevention. And once I learned about relapse prevention, I was like, God damn, what a beautiful thing. Learning my triggers, learning all sorts of different things that they offer you in treatment. But, not only that, it is cultural based as well. So it keeps me close to my culture, and it keeps me involved in the Native community, which I really love. I've met some new brothers and sisters here in Duluth that I don't think I would have met anywhere else. And I'm just really grateful for them as well. Therapy that I've been gifted through my treatment facility has assisted me in healing from my trauma, healing from historical trauma, childhood trauma, self-inflicted trauma, sexual abuse. The groups and meetings that I go to, they assist me in clearing my thoughts and sharing what's going on in my head, and recognizing that I am not alone in anything. I have lived this entire life feeling like the most alone person. And for the first time, I know that I'm not alone in my struggle. I'm not alone in my pain, and I'm not alone in my suffering. Like, we all have each other. And finding a sponsor, I saved my sponsor part for last, but I think it's the most important part, because that woman, I couldn't make a goddamn decision without calling her. After she became my sponsor, I couldn't respond to a text message. I couldn't take, not advice. What am I trying to say? I couldn't take feedback at work without absolutely feeling like completely attacked. I had to call her almost every turn of my life, because I had my trauma, which started before the time that I was born, had snowballed into such a big deal that the littlest things set me off. And I'm so grateful that I had all of these little pieces that helped me, kind of put myself back together. And, today, actually, I am 9 months and 20 days sober. I think, don't quote me. And before I end my speaker time, I added, at the beginning of my speech, I talked about how much I admire my elders and ancestors who fought for me to be here today. And I just want to read, because this is really profound to me as well. I actually came across this. Oh, there's two things. I forgot one thing, and that's I thought that I was alone when I went to treatment, and I didn't believe that I was worthy of love and support. And these are all the letters that were sent to me while I spent 45 days in treatment. Like, I had no goddamn idea that I was that loved. I have letters from people that I worked with 10 years ago supporting me in my recovery. I was in tears almost every day. But to wrap up my speech here, I came across something while I was kind of digging through my old treatment notes and stuff just to kind of give me some content for this delivery of this speech. And I came across this, and I think it's pretty profound. It's a card from my great aunt Wilma, who became basically my adopted grandmother because I didn't have a grandmother. And then also, what's even more profound is a letter that I wrote to her but never sent her. But it's a scenario that I forgot about. So I'm going to read them, a little bit of both. This was written to me in December of 2019, and it says, "Hi, Kristine. It's so hard to believe that my sister has been gone for 42 years now. She will forever be young to me. I like to leave her spirit at peace unless she decides to get in touch, as she did today when I got your message on Facebook. I was going through some of my old memory papers after you had asked some information about your grandmother, and I found her memorial on a stack of papers. My aunt asks, did she visit you in a dream? Your auntie Ella and our cousin Glenda visited me a while back, and it was so great to see them." She also goes on to say that she tried to find a Christmas card, but she couldn't find one, and this is as close as I get. It's a pink card with flowers. But she sent me my grandmother's memorial from her funeral, and I keep this with me because I genuinely believe that my grandmother is with me every single day and has always been and guided me through all of my struggles. But I responded with something that it kind of wraps up my whole story, I think. I said, "Hi, Auntie Wilma. Wow, thank you so much for sending my grandmother's memorial card. From as long as I can remember, I've known she was with me, but I still wish very much that she was present in my life. There's times that I know she's communicating to me. I can't explain it, but you know what I mean. The other day I was facilitating a training, and this older man stopped me in my tracks, and he looked at me and he's like, I was there the night to put out that fire. I was there the night that your grandma passed away. It hit me so hard, and it was so eerie that I actually went into the bathroom and sobbed. It was so weird. It was like she was talking to me through him. And when I came back out, he stopped me again. And he said, I graduated with your grandfather. And that evening, I worried about your widowed grandfather and his 5 kids. I've worried every single day until today. I see you, and you are bright, and you are beautiful, and you are thriving. And you are good, and you are safe, and I don't have to worry anymore." The end.
I wanna take a walk around the world. I wonder, would it do me any good? Until I get some money in my pocket, then I guess I'll just have to walk around my neighborhood. But I wanna be good so bad. I wanna be good so bad, so bad. Yeah, I wanna be good so bad. But bad desire is all I've ever had. And I wanna take a ride up in the sky and watch all of the aeroplanes just pass me by. And I wanna see a Learjet liner take a dive, just to show all of these people what it means to be alive. But I wanna be good so bad. I wanna be good so bad, so bad. Yeah, I wanna be good so bad. But bad desire is all I've ever had. And my shadow's getting smaller and shadows getting smaller and smaller. But it's high noon where I stand, and I wonder would they pay it any mind when I leave this busted city far behind. I'll take the high road however far it winds, because peace and love are very, very, very hard to find. But I wanna be good so bad. I wanna be good so bad, so bad. I wanna be good so bad. But bad desire is all I've ever had, and these suckers make me mad, and it's all I've ever had, and it's all I've ever had, and I wanna call my dad, and it's all I've ever had, and I wanna call my dad, and it's all I've ever had, and I wanna call my dad, and it's all I've ever had, and I wanna call my dad, and it's all I've ever had.